I mean, I think this began as a conspiracy theory. We still don't know the full substance of what's there in terms of how it affects President Trump. He hasn't been accused of any crimes. There's not been specifics yet about wrongdoing attached to Jeffrey Epstein. I think the thinking is, since Epstein was a sex trafficker and a pedophile, was he trafficking women to other powerful people, and did that ultimately ensnare Trump? There's no evidence of that yet, although yesterday, in the emails that were released, Epstein said suggested in the emails that Trump knew about the young women at his house who were, being bounced between powerful men, and in some cases it met tragic fates. I think another piece of this is whether or not Trump made use of some of the financial services that Epstein provided to people like Leon Black that saved them billions of dollars in taxes. But we don't know. And so in that regard, there's not fully anything there yet. I think the issue is this began as a conspiracy theory that Epstein more broadly had a list of clients he was protecting, and that the Justice Department and the federal government needed to dig into this to discover who he was protecting and why. And Trump himself was an author of the initial frenzy around the conspiracy theory. And he said when he got into the White House, he would make sure that there was transparency and disclosure. Then he got into the White House, his Justice Department investigated this, and suddenly in July said, nope, we found no evidence of wrongdoing, there is no client list, and Epstein did indeed kill himself while in prison. And that set off, I think, the MAGA base, which had been very concerned about government disclosure around this. And Trump ended up ensnared in something he helped create, and here we are.
And of course, all these disclosures that we're getting now are all rooted or can be found in these emails that Jeffrey Epstein corresponded with different people. And, we're quoting, or media outlets are quoting from these emails, but Epstein is not exactly a reliable narrator here. No,
he is classically the unreliable narrator, and there's a cacophony of unreliable narrators all over this mess, from Ghislaine Maxwell to various right-wing media pundits to Trump himself. But in the news right now is Epstein because of these emails. And Epstein had every incentive, given the way he made money and built his social network, to inflate what he knew, to inflate who he knew, to inflate the consequences of what he said he knew about. And until I think there's a proper vetting of that information that's substantiated with other sources, you can't rely simply on Epstein himself.
What is the role of the U.S. Congress in all of this?
Well, they've been pushing to get the Justice Department to release all of the files it has on Epstein. And that's actually been a bipartisan push.
Okay.
Thomas Massie, a Kentucky Republican, and Ro Khanna, a California Democrat, partnered essentially to get enough House votes together to go over House Speaker Mike Johnson's head. Mike Johnson had essentially been keeping a cap on taking a vote, compelling the Justice Department to release the documents. They now have those votes. They now have enough signatures to get a floor vote, which will now occur next week. And if the House approves it, they can compel the Justice Department, if the Senate also goes along, to release these documents. So we're going to start to get some movement on that next week.
So I use you and your columns as my barometer for how much I should care about any of the noise that comes out of the Trump administration.
I'm sorry for you, Scarlett.
No, because when something that's happening means something bigger. So how are you thinking about the whole Epstein story and how it's going to unravel, essentially?
Or unveil, how it'll be unveiled.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look what's happened in England with former Prince Andrew. Mm-hmm. Obviously, one of the troubling aspects of the whole Epstein mess is sexual abuse and sexual assault of women by powerful men, whoever that man or men may be. So there may be more disclosure around that. And then we'll have to see how voters and the public respond if Trump gets ensnared in that. But again, yet there's no evidence of that. And then I think on the other side of it, Trump has been, and he and his family have been making billions of dollars from the presidency, particularly, and I think most glaringly, around crypto investments. And prior to going into the presidency, Trump was deeply involved in foreign transactions. He was trying to do deals in Moscow. Epstein facilitated financial transactions overseas for clients. Does some of that become, does that loom larger if there's evidence that Trump might have used Epstein's network for untoward financial activities? Again, we don't know, but it's a reasonable and open question.